Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass with JayBee, Millie, and Smash.
We are joined again by Rhianna.
Hi.
And our guest today is Peter New.
Hi.
So, for those of you who don't know, Peter New has starred in some of our absolute favourites in regards to Scooby-Doo, from things like Monsters Unleashed to ScoobyNatural, and we're really excited to be speaking with them today about some of the things that they've done, also the Scooby aspect of their life as well. And so with that, JayBee, I believe you have the first question.
So I am very starstruck, admittedly, but I'll try and get through this as professionally as possible. And so our first question is, did you watch Scooby-Doo as a child? And if so, who was your favourite member of Mystery Inc? And what was your favourite series?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. And I love that you're saying that I starred in these things, and I find that such a strong word, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Yeah, I did like Scooby as a kid, and I actually don't know what the precise series was. I just, I was watching it in probably the late 70s, maybe early 80s. So whatever was on TV at that time, I think it was I just remember it as being just Scooby-Doo. But I certainly enjoyed it. I always liked that there was a person in the monster suit. I always liked that they weren't actually dealing with the supernatural for some reason, as much as they sort of had to go through the supernatural in order to get to the guy, and as much as they seemed to believe in the supernatural as they got to the guy. I sort of liked that they kind of incorporated both of the notions. That things could be fantastic at the same time as things were always explainable. I really enjoyed that. The world of the two alternatives, the world of not everything being as it seems. Daphne, I think, was my favorite, just because I had a crush on her. Straight up.
Hey.
I liked Daphne. I thought she was hot. So it's, no small feat that I managed to become Daphne's tattooed fan eventually in my life.
Wow, that is absolutely fantastic.
I was going to say that your character there was like JayBee's spirit animal. Like,
the embodiment.
If they weren't so scared of needles, they'd probably have a Daphne tattoo too.
I mean, probably multiple, I would say. Yeah, high five through the microphone for that one. That was perfect. So in terms of watching Scooby-Doo when you were growing up, do you think you ever saw any monsters that you were like, okay, that's the one that I'd be frightened of?
I was a pretty scaredy kid, so I imagine I was probably pretty frightened of all of them. I was able to, at least with the cartoon, to be able to say, well, I'm aware that this is not real, but I was, like I would go see movies and things and really carry the imagery from the movie into my life. So I think I was probably scared of more or less all of them. I can't remember a specific one, but yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And that actually leads us on to the next question, which is, do you have a favorite Scooby-Doo movie?
Well, obviously it's the one that I'm in. It has to be, don't you think?
I guess
definitely.
It would naturally be. I mean, if I had been in in any of the Scooby-Doo movies, just watching them back, I'd be like, yes.
You've always said that the live-action ones are by far your favourite.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm betraying people saying that, because I know, like, the animation ones have a role in a lot of people's lives, and mine too, but just there's something about those live-action movies, all of them, that they're absolutely amazing.
And I mean, I grew up in a household where my parents didn't like animated anything. My mum hates animation. So as soon as there was a live action one, she was like, yeah, you can watch that. I'll let you watch that one. Whereas if it was an animated one...
She'll let you watch the thing based on the cartoon, but the cartoon is a no-go.
Yeah. The second I put animated Scooby on, it was like, no, you can't watch that. I don't like animation. As soon as it was live action, that's great.
I feel like that's a double standard. I'm sorry to tell your mother, but that is a double standard.
It's a tragedy, really.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when I first met JayBee, he didn't understand that I'd not really seen Disney. He was like, it's just a right of being a child. I was like, I know. I didn't get that, though.
Oh, no. Too bad.
Oh, gosh.
You're going to get it now, though, right? You're filling your boots.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. Like, we're on a bit of a mission to go through all of the Scooby-Doo movies, and we're doing pretty good so far. So we're definitely making up for some lost time there. I
Indeed.
think it's fair to say. But I guess
Excellent.
that leads us on to the next question that we have, which is, I suppose, what actor or actress did you look up to as a child, and how do you think that they influenced your life and career?
It depends on, I guess I go back to what age. Um, because I guess, I there were people like Don Knotts, weirdly enough, that I would look up to because I thought he was funny. I really liked the Mel Brooks universe when I was growing up. So Gene Wilder and Mel himself. I really wanted to gravitate towards comedy quite a bit, so I was always interested in those people. I was a fan of, I would watch the old Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy and all those when I could. The Marx Brothers, thought they were terrific.
They're amazing. And can you remember a particular time? I know you said there was some things that you saw that you were enjoying, but a time when you were like, you knew that the film industry was what you wanted to do.
Oh, when I knew the film industry was what I wanted to do. It just feels like it was so natural and immediate. Like I just thought I always, I think, any interview you give, you're going to give a different answer, I think, and any, just whatever is striking you in whatever moment. But what is hitting me today and right now is there used to be a show called Battle of the Network Stars, which was this thing where it was when there were only three major American networks, CBS, NBC, and ABC. And each of them had their big primetime lineup. And this is, you couldn't record anything. You had to tune in if you wanted to see it. Like it was appointment television era. And I guess it was once a year they would have this, basically, they would set up this goofy obstacle course for the stars of each of their lineups. And they would compete against one another. So, NBC would win at the end of the night or what have you. And it was just, and they would do the whole thing like it would be run like a sports event, and it was just stupid. And I thought that was great. And I was like, I think I decided I wanted to be in the film industry because I wanted to be on Battle of the Network Stars, of all things, which is, of course, history now. Now I'd have to be on Wipeout. It's not the same.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm in a similar situation because I'm currently training acting wise through Kate Milton, who she played Daphne in Scooby-Doo Mystery Begins and Cursed Lake Monster. But
awesome.
Once you made the decision that you wanted to go into the film industry, was there a particular genre of film that you knew that you wanted to be in and you really strived towards that?
I think I really thought I had to be handsome. I thought I had to be skinny and a heartthrob, and I thought I had to be Brad Pitt in order to be in the film industry. So I'd done a few years of live comedy around town here, and I'd done quite well doing that with a sketch troupe. And I thought, well, I'm not the skinny, handsome movie star, so why don't I get into voice work? Because if I get into voice work, I've been doing these blackout sketches in front of people for 5 years here, and I'm good at sort of making the quick, bold decision, the silly decision. I'm quite steeped in that sort of world, so I thought I'd be able to make the transition into voice work really easily. So I found an agent that represented voice talent and submitted my stuff, and she was quite happy to take me on as a voice actor, but took one look at me and went, well, where are your headshots? Why aren't you also pursuing on camera? Because you have a great look. And I was all hemming and hawing and going, well, because I couldn't be a movie star looking like I look. I'm not, I am no Montgomery Clift after all. And she was just like, don't be daft. go and get your headshots. And I started working immediately in film, and I was quite happy to just be on the set because I thought it was a world that had sort of was going to elude me. I thought this is not going to be something I'll be able to do because of my fitness, you know. And so no, I didn't really. I mean, obviously, I would have wanted to have been in various things had I come at it with that. But I guess the only real thing that I really want to do, I mean, I would love to be in things like, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. I've had way too much caffeine. And as I have another sip.
No, that's absolutely perfect. Like, we could listen to you talk about this for ages. It's so good.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Then I'll just ramble on. I would love to be in stuff like, you know, Coen Brothers movies. You know, I was a huge fan of Barton Fink and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, all those things. But the one person, when I got not that agent I was talking about, when I subsequently had to move on to a different agent, the one person I said, listen, if this person ever comes through town shooting a movie, I don't care what it is. I'll move a trash can. I don't, you know, I'm gonna be on the set. And that was the director, Terry Gilliam. So when the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus was shooting here, I was like, do it. Make me in the movie. Make me happen. And luckily enough, I managed to get a job on it. So it's alarming for me because, you know, I'm from West Coast Canada, and they had me doing a British accent in front of a British crew for an American director. I hope it's passable.
I mean, definitely. I think kind of.
I played. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, the British accent apparently is one that's a bit difficult to pull off, but
there's many different ones, right? There's different ones. Right?
I definitely could do America.
I think a lot of us coming at I mean, the thing they say in voice work is, listen, you don't really need to do a good accent. You just need to do the accent that the American ear believes to be that accent, right? So I don't need to do your accent. I could just go, oh, this is your accent. It must be very clearly, right? I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's not. But people will go, oh, that's lower class English. Yes, and then I'll split into this thing and do, you know, try myself to sound like the Queen or whatnot. And people will say, well, that's very good and that's upper class. And I don't know. It could be. You know, I don't know.
No,
it's good enough for the voice directors, so I guess it's good enough.
It's perfect. I guess accurately for English, like there is no real like English accent really, because just from like experience, you pop down like just 10 minutes down the road from us, and there's like 4 different accents going on. So yeah. it's a gamble.
Well, I mean, the Americans are the same. It's just it's a longer distance than 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'd imagine that.
Yeah, you know, they've got 4 time zones to work with, whereas we're kind of like travel 10 miles down the road, and
it's just
you're an entirely different world.
Light rain, mid rain, then heavy rain.
And 4 time zones is small for us Canadians. We have more.
Gosh, I cannot imagine that. It's wild. But I guess the next question, and it's more like, I guess, just like a kind of anecdote from mine, but a movie that I have such fond memories with is the Cody Banks movie. Now, I remember watching that all the way back on, like, and this is like saying all the way back. It's not really that old, but the first time I watched that movie was on the Netflix app on the Wii U. So that, I kind of watched it in the weirdest way. I didn't watch it when it first came out, but I just remember that line with Keith David's character going, congratulations, Rosychuk. You just apprehended the most important kid in America. And I just thought that was one of the funniest, like, just like the delivery and your character surrounding all that was so incredible. Like, just really funny.
Well, what's fascinating about that one is the part I auditioned for was, there's also a scene with the driving instructor. I don't know if you remember that. But that's the part I auditioned for, was the driving instructor.
Yeah, I remember it's Mr. Yip? Is that one thing?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And I auditioned about, I don't know, it feels like maybe 2 months before the shoot. Usually you find out pretty quick when you audition and then you book, you know. And A couple of weeks at the most usually. So a couple of months is a really long time to get the call and suddenly be like, oh, they want me to do what? It's not a thing I auditioned for. What do they want me to do? And I got the script, and all the script was I was a security guard. I was called a security guard, and they were coming in the gate or what have you, and all I had to do was kind of wave and go, boss, or something like that, right? It was extremely minimal, but they wanted me in the movie, and I was like, well, all right, I'll come and do the job. What the heck? It sounds fun. And then on day one of the shoot, the director, Harold Zvart, sort of took a look at the scene and went, this could be a lot funnier. Hang on, and sent us all to lunch. And he wrote this page of dialogue and gave it to us after lunch saying, something like this. And then we shot it. But we were free to improvise around it because it was kind of new. So Keith David took a look at my badge, which was actually the name of the props guy, Rosychuk. His name's Dave Rosychuk. And all of our badges in the CIA sequence were just names of people on the crew, because it was easier for them to just pull names from a random group of people rather than try to make them up. So I had Dave Rosychuk's badge. It said Rosychuk on it. And so Keith David pats me in the chest and goes, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's written on my chest." So I had to look at it and read it, which I do in the movie. And then I say it. And that kind of, and then they were like, "That's great. Let's keep it." They did another couple takes with me actually looking at it and repeating the action. And yeah, so that's how that got in there. That's how that character got a name, was that he asked and I answered.
That's actually amazing. I can't believe how much I'm like freaking out internally now, just having watched it consistently throughout the time I first saw it and just getting some behind the scenes knowledge. And on that theme, do you have any other particularly memorable moments from filming that movie that you can tell us about?
There's actually a number. Segways were a new thing, and they had all the extras there on segways, and so there were Segway lessons, and everybody was trying out segways. I remember between takes, Keith David and Frankie Muniz would just sing show tunes, which was wild because their voices actually mixed really well together, and he's such a lovely resonant bass or baritone, and he was a tenor, and they just kind of got on and sang. And Muniz himself was, I'd sort of come into it thinking, oh well, this maybe he's a spoiled kid coming up and Malcolm in the Middle, and we're all trying real hard to be actors, and he just lucked into whatever. And I had this sort of cynical attitude about the whole thing. But I gotta say that guy was so professional, right? Like, he just nailed every take. He had every line. He worked it. He knew it. He was an actor, and I was very impressed with that. Because my own bias and my own preconceived notions were in my way, which, is a good lesson actually as an actor, to understand that, look, people are working. People are here because they want to be, not because they're spoiled, lucky people.
That sounds just incredible hearing that. And I think the kind of on-screen chemistry was there between you and Frankie Muniz, to the point where I kind of wished, watching the sequel, that you were cast as their handler in that movie.
I wish I'd been in the sequel too, but I think they got some blowback. They got, apparently, I don't know this for sure, this is the grapevine talking, but apparently they got a lot of blowback about Angie Harmon's character being too sexy for a teenage boy, which I don't know if you've ever been a teenage boy, but I have, and we think ladies are sexy at that time in our lives, those of us that are interested. So it's not like we're not looking. So I don't know.
Yeah, they did definitely go in a new direction for the sequel, but they freaked out a bit. I think they got a little blowback from the kind of religious right or something, and decided that maybe let's do it something different. So they actually shot it somewhere else, I think. I don't think they shot it here, and they just changed everything about it. Yeah, of course. And yeah, you're right about that. It's just interesting to get behind the scenes on that kind of hands-on acting role in front of a camera and everything. But another thing that, of course, you're amazing at and that we really like to hear about is the kind of world of voice acting. And I know that you've appeared consistently throughout the My Little Pony series. And I was wondering, how did voice acting, or how does voice acting differ from on-screen acting?
Well, it differs in a number of ways, and it's the same all at once. It's the same in that you're still just building a character and making choices in that character and then representing it through your body in some way. On camera, obviously you're being witnessed and it picks up every little movement, so you're trying to kind of keep your performance in the eyes as much as you can so that you aren't and keep your movements sort of natural and pointed in the right direction so that the camera is seeing the right parts of you at all times. You got to be sort of hyper aware of the way you look. And in voice, you really don't. Like in voice, you can be, there's that whole thing about, well, you can show up in your underpants to work. Well, no, you can't. You're still going to a professional studio, which would prefer that you're dressed. But you can be ridiculous behind the microphone. You can do all sorts of strange, chaotic things to drive the vocal performance into an animatable place. So rather than having to perform through the eyes with an awareness of what you look like, you're performing through the voice with an awareness of what you sound like. And that's a different channel in a way, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yes, of course.
But it's the same, it's like to bring it back to the television reference, it's like saying, well, each channel has their procedural police drama and they're a little bit different, but and you're going to have your preference perhaps, but they're kind of the same but weirdly different.
That's amazing. And I think one thing that we're particularly excited to be speaking to you about is Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed. We started to talk about it before, but it certainly is a standout to us in terms of things that we've really enjoyed. And you, of course, play one of Daphne's tattooed fans, which, again, we're saying is like a JayBee spirit animal. Like, honestly, just watching that, it's a bit of a joke that we have just how much that is like JayBee.
I mean, just looking at where we're recording now, obviously we don't have the visual, but in front of me I'm staring at a Daphne Funko Pop, and to the back of me there's a massive theatre poster of Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, so I'm vibing with that.
Oh yeah, great. That's awesome.
So what was the audition process like for that role? Like, how did you get into doing that?
Well, my understanding of it is that they were only looking for one tattooed fan, and at the time, the guy who plays the other tattooed fan, Chris Gauthier, he and I were, we're pals, so we see each other socially from time to time, and we live in the same neighborhoods. We bump into each other quite a bit, but we were going out for a lot of the same parts a lot of the time. And there was a period where it felt like if I didn't get it, he would get it. And if he didn't get it, I would get it. And we both showed up to this audition for this part for Daphne's tattooed fan. And they just wanted you to be sort of big and sort of goofy and wide-eyed and nuts. And I remember just going into the audition and just doing that and making them laugh and leaving. And it was fast. And then he went in, or I don't know who went in first or whatnot. But then obviously they cast us both, and our impression was that they just couldn't decide between us. So they just chose to do us both, which was great fun. And then we got to kind of ride that whole wave together, which was fun after having been in this sort of friendly competition for a couple of years.
That's amazing. And I think I personally couldn't imagine the role done as one person. Like, I think if you think about that scene, there's different kind of like groups of fans as opposed to just individual ones. So like Velma's got their own groups. I think for Daphne to just have one person standing there with the tattoo. It would have been a bit more jarring than the two.
Yeah.
I think it would have been kind of creepy, wouldn't it? Hi, Daphne. It's me again.
Yeah, like one person, it's like a stalker. Two persons, it's like a zealous fan club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The initiation's getting a tattoo.
And it may be as these kinds of things happen where, like, I just booked a job. I'm not allowed to talk about any beyond what I'm about to say, but I just booked a job this week where they send you the part kind of rewritten. It's a group of 3 guys that they're casting, and they've given you the name of one of them, and whited out the names of the other 2 guys, and just put that one name in, and you just audition for that one part as though it's one guy, and then from that pool of actors they cast all 3, which is what they did. So it's quite possible that they did that on Scooby, and I don't know. It's quite possible that they had that realization themselves, that maybe they thought, well, we'll have one Daphne fan and one Velma fan, etc., and then kind of got to the end of the casting process and went, shouldn't we have more than one in each case, because it would be weird just to have one.
Yeah, and I guess Daphne has the girls as well.
There's all sorts of possibilities in terms of how that came to be, but my understanding at the time was that they just couldn't choose. And in a sense, that is still what happened, because we obviously were the 2 that got it. But in a sense, too, I would just rather believe that, because it feeds my ego.
I mean, like you said, it's certainly supported by the fact that the 2 of you did get the role, so it does go beyond ego at that point, I guess.
I mean, I think that's a testament to the acting as well, to be honest. And I'm not just saying this because you're here, but in a way, I'm almost saying, like, we're so hyper aware in this day and age of stuff like, not necessarily cancel culture with this, but like watching something back and saying, ooh, that really didn't age well. And I feel like, played the wrong way, that scene could have been one of those things, like, oh, here's some like misogyny, or they're like kind of hypersexualizing this character, but it just came across as, like you say, just joyously endearing. Like, they're obviously zealous and they've got these tattoos, but it just seems like just fun.
Yeah, like we said, it just works really well. Like you were saying, if it was one person on their own, it could just come across as a bit strange. Like, this person's just gone off on their own, like JayBee would, to get a Daphne tattoo, and we all know that JayBee's crossed that level of strange with Daphne's. Whereas having the 2 together, it works really well, and it was amazing. So I know you were saying that the initial plan was that they were going to have one Daphne tattooed fan, so I guess in their mind they had to change things a little bit and again create a second tattoo. Did either of you have any input into the tattoos, or who'd have which one, that kind of thing?
No, not really, no. They it was an odd process, honestly. They the first step was they had us both shave from the belly up, right? So we had to, which was a very weird experience, I promise. So basically from wherever I buttoned my pants up to my neck, I had to be bald. So that was odd. And so then, then you show up. We had to come in for a makeup test, which, they brought this tattoo artist in who painted the Daphnes on us, in, just like you would be doing a tattoo, only just not using a needle. Take pictures, get approvals, and then they wash it off, and you have to come back the next day or whenever it was to do the shoot. And at that point, they have to put it on again, and so it looks a little bit different. And Chris and I have often said that, mine looked sweet at the makeup test, and his was kind of, ugh. And then on the day, it's the other way around. His looked great, and mine looked yikes. But I don't know. They're both just fun.
Yeah, and
that it's like a whole another level of commitment to a role to do all of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the number of times I've been asked to take my shirt off is actually surprising. So, my chest was out of commission for a few weeks.
I guess just people wanting to know if the tattoo was real, just like.
Yeah. People want to know that a lot. Like, do you still have that? I'm like, I don't know that the money I earned off that movie would be worth getting an actual Sarah Michelle Gellar in the middle of my chest. But
I mean, who knows? Who knows?
JayBee's just sat there like, I'd volunteer.
To be fair, though, they'd look brown on me,
That's
so I don't think people would quite get who it was. But who knows?
who knows? Who knows?
When you were filming, did it take place on location outside of the Vancouver Art Gallery?
Yes, it did, which is right in the middle of downtown. It was a spectacle, you know. It was probably the biggest budget movie I'd been on to that date. So there were, a huge crowd of extras. Buffy had just finished shooting in LA, so there were screaming Buffy fans surrounding us. And it was also hockey playoff season. So there were screaming hockey fans surrounding us. And so yeah, we sort of blocked off the street and put this crowd of people there. And that opening shot of the film is really interesting because it does this sort of CG fly around thing. And as it comes down into the lane, it actually somewhere in there merges up with an actual camera on a big sort of wire rig that shoots about a block straight out from the alleyway across across one of our major streets, one of our major thoroughfares that is, connects the downtown core through to North Vancouver on one side and to the main city on the other side. It's usually just packed with traffic, but they blocked it off, shoot this camera over top, and then it kind of lands on this whole crowd of people, and it looks so seamless and wonderful, but it was just like it was this kind of chaos watching it all happen.
It definitely came out really well.
Yeah.
I guess we've already answered the next question that we had written down. But Rhianna, would you like to ask?
I may have other things to talk about.
Well, yeah. I guess we can go for it. This is incredible.
So we now know, obviously, the tattoo wasn't real,
Yes.
and you tell us about how the effect was accomplished. But I was actually wondering, how long did it take for them to paint it on your chest and get all of that set up?
It was a couple of hours anyway. I think to that date, it was probably the longest I'd spent in the makeup chair, but it was certainly one of the weirdest days I've ever spent in the makeup chair, because usually they're doing stuff with your head, sometimes your hands. But this was sitting there topless in the makeup chair while they fart around with your chest. It was odd. It was the first time in my career, because I was just starting to lose my hair, and the makeup people asked me to shave hair from my chest, and the hair people were trying to be delicate about putting makeup on the top of my head, which I thought was very funny.
One question I have in regards to the tattoo is was it easy to remove after the shoot? Because the way that I'm thinking is you had to put a t-shirt over it, so surely it has to be not permanent, but relatively robust, that it's not going to just smudge in between takes or something like that.
Yeah, I mean the makeups they use are pretty robust anyway, right? Because you're wearing makeup on your whole face anyway, and they have people that are going to check it between takes and touch it up between takes. So, and they just sort of asked us to kind of hunch so that our shirts didn't rub on it. But it wasn't all that difficult to rub off. I mean, I needed to use a significant amount of makeup remover, but it did come off.
So I guess the next question that we have is, when filming this scene, did you get to meet or perform, I guess, alongside the cast of Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr, Matthew Lillard, or Linda Cardellini, or was your section of that scene kind of filmed separately to that?
Oh no, we all worked together.
Wow.
We actually we did that together, obviously. We actually had I think it was like 4 days on the set ultimately, because we did the makeup test day, and then we did the shoot at the art gallery day. Then there was a shoot at Britannia Beach Mine, where the very end of the movie, there's a moment where Chris and I do this chest bump in the background of the scene. And then that whole dance sequence at the end was another day. But while we were up at Britannia Beach, they had us in a gym. So it was me and and Chris and the other fans, and Sarah and Freddie and everybody in this like elementary school gymnasium, learning the dance steps for the dance sequence over the credits, which was fun. I remember this.
Ruben.
Yeah. So I remember this, this sort of little moment. I remember where Sarah had just gotten engaged, I think, and I remember sitting like on the edge of the, I don't know how they are in England, but here most of our elementary school gyms are an elementary school. They're like a gymnasium floor with basketball hoops and stuff, and then one end is a stage so that you can do, it sort of converts into an auditorium. And so Sarah and I were sitting on the edge of the stage next to each other, and she was showing me her engagement ring between rehearsals, so we just sort of sat and had this nice chat, and everybody was so kind on the set. It was a pleasure to work with. The guy who played Scooby was also there all day, which was every day, which was great. Like, I love that they had him on set, because of course he's just voice acting the thing after the fact, I think, but he was there to do all the off-camera dialogue every single day. And one of the things with him, Neil Fanning, his name, one of the things that with him was that he's up from Australia, and he had never watched ice hockey, and because it was playoff season, he's like, I don't know, maybe I'll give it a watch, I don't know. And we went into his trailer and turned on the game because our team was playing against the St. Louis Blues, who ended up beating us. Damn them. And at first he was like, so what's going on? What's happening here? Why did they blow the whistle there? And within a half an hour, he was the loudest of us, screaming for us to get the puck in the net, because he just got so into it. It was great. So, that's the kind of stories that we have from the work,
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Like, just when you were telling that story, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to break on professionalism here on Scream, because that just sounds incredible.
I mean, it's fair to say that from the first mention of Buffy, that's how you passed, because we've had, I want to say 2 quite long lockdowns in the UK, and so that's just how JayBee's passed the time. He introduced himself to Buffy series literally 1 to 6, I want to say.
I think there's 7, but oh gosh, there's a shrine of that behind me as well.
Yeah, there's seven seasons of Buffy, and 6 is kind of the hard one to get through, but 7's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's the
5
musical in season 6.
Oh yeah, come on.
Oh, that's amazing. We recently got the CD of that for our car. It's just radix.
Just singing on the way to work.
But I suppose that leads us on to a bit more about the behind the scenes of the movie. And of course, as you mentioned, that you and is it Chris Gauthier? I'm sorry, the pronunciation kind of Gauthier, thank you. So you and Mr. Chris Gauthier kind of are familiar with each other because you've appeared on a lot of similar things, but in terms of you actually going to film that Daphne Tattoo fan role, did you both know that you were going to for that same role again?
Yeah, I think we saw each other at the audition. So I mean, our assumption, and it could just be our own egos, right? Because actors are all just walking egos who are terrified of each other. But we just assumed that it would be one or the other of us,
And of course, it was both of you, which is absolutely incredible.
It's a delight. We actually on the set, we shooting the first scene, the tattooed fan scene, because of course we didn't need to have the tattoos for any of the rest of it. But for the tattoo sequence, we'd done the thing where we kind of it was written to have the lines sort of split up, you know, where we just kind of called her over, and then he said one thing, I said the other thing, and it was very sort of mechanical the way it was written. And we had been joking around because of our friendly rivalry. We've been joking around about how we should just do it in unison. And the director was, again, like the generosity on the set. We don't, as you know, we're a service industry in Vancouver by and large. Like we have these big American productions that come up here from Los Angeles, and then they bring with them their LA cast, and then they cast around for the small parts. And that's what I normally pick up. And so they don't often give us a lot of latitude or a lot of attention on the day. But Raja Gosnell, the director, you know, I think to his credit, came up to us after we'd done sort of 3 or 4 takes the way it's written and said, is there anything else you guys want to do? And I just said to Chris, I said, do you want to do it in unison? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we suggested it, and he thought that was hilarious. And so then we did a few takes of us just doing the whole thing in unison, which I think is more funny. And I think they ended up cutting it sort of a little bit of both, which is sort of fun.
Yeah, like a nice back and forth. It's a shame that I guess Raja Gosnell never got to work on the cancelled 3rd movie, because that's going to be something that if I could ever visit a multiverse, it would be to watch that 3rd installment.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the future. I know they sometimes talk about it, but I don't know.
Still on the 2nd movie, after appearing in the movie, did you watch it back? Was it one that you wanted to see?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I enjoy watching myself on camera because again, I try to have a good perspective about my own ego. Its appeal. I'm mentioning it more than I normally do, but there you go. I was really keen to watch it. I had a nephew who was the right age to see the film, and so I was sort of keen to have seen it so that he and I could talk about it. And I remember getting together with him at some family function, and you know, he was talking about all the things he thought was great in the movie and this bit and that bit that he loved. And I was like, well, what about the bit with the Daphne fans? Did you like that bit? And he goes, yeah, it was okay. Oh, okay, thanks. Great.
Tough cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thanks for that. It was great.
And I mean, I know you're saying that Daphne was always kind of your favourite, so I think this character was absolutely perfectly fitting. But if you could have had free reign of any of the characters in the movie, who would you have chosen?
Oh, I guess probably Matthew Lillard's role, Shaggy. But that said, I cannot imagine doing a better job than Lillard did.
Yeah, I think firstly, I think for like comedic personality, I think that's a role that would suit you incredibly. But also, again, as you were saying, I think it's very much, from what I understand of the live action movies, that Matthew Lillard trying to act like there was a Scooby there that, like you said, was just a man on a set overseeing things. There's a
little more to it than that. They had a couple different things because they wanted to get the effect right. So part of what they do is they have just a stuffed Scooby looking doll that they stick where they want Scooby to be, and he can act to that, which is strange. And then they had a stick with 2 globes on either end, and one was like a silver one so that you could shoot reflections, so they understood what was being reflected, so they could put that they could accurately represent reflections in Scooby's eyes, for instance, if they were getting close. And then the other side was I think it was part white and part black, maybe, I'm not sure, but it was split into 2 different tones so that they could get shadow and light right on the CG.
Yeah, like
So
I've
he's
seen some
performing
behind the scenes stuff of
performing
that.
all that.
Looks a bit
which is-
spooky.
It's very odd, right? Like, but I guess, with however many days on set and Neil off to the side doing the voice, I guess you get used to it.
Wow, it all sounds so amazing. And I'm sorry I've been so quiet. I'm partially starstruck and I'm just taking everything in.
No, wow, it's very excellent.
I was wondering, after the movie's release, were you ever recognized as one of Daphne's tattooed fans? And do you think at any point in real life you'll actually get a Daphne tattoo?
I can't say for certain that I have been recognized for Daphne's tattooed fan, but I can also not say for certain that I have not been. It goes by pretty fast if you're not a Scooby super fan, you know what I mean? Like if you're just a person that happened to see the movie, then sometimes I'll be somewhere and I'll mention that I was in it, and someone who hasn't seen the movie in 10 years will go, "Oh, that was you?" And that's exciting, so it's sort of there's that happens, but I don't remember for sure getting recognized for it. I don't remember a particular incident. Sorry to disappoint you.
That's okay.
No stories on that answer.
And
will I get a Daphne tattoo? That was the other half. I only got my very first ever real tattoo in the last few years, because I've always taken the view with tattoos that they need to be something that no one else has, and they need to be something that is meaningful. And so the tattoo that I have is on my inner upper left arm, and it's of a firefly that we designed ourselves. And my wife Amy has the same tattoo in the same spot, so we can hold each other close to each other's heart. Because when we first met, I had never seen fireflies in real life, and we were walking along in this park full of fireflies. So that is the only tattoo that I have at the moment. And moving forward, if I were to get a Daphne tattoo, it would have to be unique and it would have to be meaningful, I think. But also maybe not. Also, now that I have one unique and meaningful one, maybe I just want dumb tattoos. Who knows?
That's incredible. That's a really, really, really nice kind of anecdote there with the fireflies, because I have to admit I've never seen them either, but they're just such amazing, like from what I've heard.
It's for someone that has never seen them, like all of a sudden there are just all these specks of light in the grass, and you just kind of go, what the heck is happening here? Like, what is the air is alight? What is going on? And you sort of see them in movies or what have you, and I think there's something inherently kind of they appear to be in the proscenium, I think, because a movie is in 2 dimensions by and large. Even 3D movies are still they still feel in sort of an enhanced second dimension, but in real life it's immersive entirely, and it's wild.
And I guess speaking of being immersed into different dimensions, that kind of
Nice
brings
segue.
us perfectly
Wow.
to ScoobyNatural. Hey, I'm proud of
You've
that
done
one.
this before.
That's one for the resume. So I guess that my question would be, if you were a Supernatural fan before being cast in the show itself.
Yeah, I was actually. I enjoyed. I have to admit I hadn't seen all of it, but I have always enjoyed watching it here and there for sure. I was actually in a season 2 episode of Supernatural.
Yes, I remember that one.
Yeah, am I actually in it? Because I don't know. I feel like some people have said that I'm in it, and then sometimes I think I'm cut. I'm a hospital orderly.
Yes, I think there's a quick glimpse of you in one of the scenes.
Now that explains how come I keep getting the residuals. Because otherwise I'm like, why are you still paying me for that? Okay, good.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, and I basically blinked by, I think, in that episode. Most of what I had to do got cut, which happens. So it was good it was a good opportunity to come back 7 seasons later and get to do something a little more meaty.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And on
definitely
that
iconic.
episode especially, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like fate, really. Like, it's crazy because it's just awesome how you've kind of got that kind of dual role within the Scoobyverse, but also in something that appeals to people that are almost non-Scooby. Because I feel like if you're watching Supernatural after not watching Scooby-Doo since childhood or anything, it's just that little bit of, it's a kick of nostalgia, but it also doesn't take away from the Supernatural series as a whole. It's just, it's incredible. But I guess, how did gaining the role come about?
I mean, most of what I get, including that, is just I get a call from the agency saying, hey, there's an audition for you for X. Please go to the place and do the thing. And so I went to the place and I did the thing and got the job. It's not nearly as kind of magical or difficult. People often want to ask me how come I chose this or chose that. But like I said, we're a service industry here in Vancouver. So there's not a lot of we get to choose this or we get to choose that. It's mostly we just get to do this or we get to do that, you know. So I'll take it. Yes, thank you. I got to pay rent.
I mean, even like you're saying, even it happening that way, it's still amazing that we get that link of, you know, your involvement in Monsters Unleashed to then be back for the Scooby special. And on that bin, the Scooby special, Jared Padalecki and Sam Winchester, who played Sam Winchester in the show, said that they were a huge Scooby-Doo fan. Did you talk about your previous involvement with like Monsters Unleashed? Did they remember you from there or anything like that?
I think I mentioned it at one point, and I think they both just kind of went, "Oh yeah," that was it. Neat, they think. I think they kind of went like that and went, "Let's move on with next. What's the next take?"
And I think I do think that the crossover was amazing. And was it predicted that the ScoobyNatural crossover would respond with fans so well? So like people coming over from kind of like the Scooby-Doo community over to the Supernatural show and vice versa.
I mean, I think that's the hope. But I think that's always the hope with any crossover episode. I think there's always the worry on a crossover that you're not doing justice to one or the other, and that, you know, you're going to annoy the Supernatural fans because you're doing this animated thing, and then you're going to annoy the Scooby fans because it's not true Scoob. So I think that if I'm right, if I remember this right, the writers were actual Scooby-Doo writers, which is great, if that's true.
I think they were. I know the people who did the animation, they definitely were, and same with the composers. So I think the writers were as well.
Yeah, and I know they hired the voice actors to voice the Scooby Gang, right? They didn't try to mock it up in any way. They wanted it to be as genuine as they could. But also Scooby's got a long history of crossovers, right? So it was nothing out of place from the Scooby direction. And then Supernatural has sort of given themselves the license to do just about anything, you know, so that I think it was really fitting. And I think they all just kind of went, as long as we do it well, then it will be good for everyone. I think they did a great job.
Definitely. And you know, I'm a huge fan of Scooby-Doo and Supernatural, and I've seen so many YouTube videos from conventions and interviews and stuff. And I was wondering, what was it like working with Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki, and Misha Collins on set? Because I know they speak very highly of the ScoobyNatural episode, so I wanted your point of view on it.
I thought they were terrific. Most of the people that I've had the fortune to work with are generous, but every now and then you get on a set where you can tell that it's how do I want to say this? You can if the people at the top in the top positions, like the main cast and the producers, are good people having fun, then that bleeds down into everyone else. And if it's the other way around, then it can be a bit of a chore to be at work. But on that set, it was definitely the former and not the latter. And they were very generous. Like I remember having a conversation with Misha Collins actually at one point where they shot all of their coverage and the camera turned around for my coverage, and Misha stayed and gave me his eye line and threw me his lines and everything. And he didn't really have to do that, because he's been working all day and he could go back to his trailer and they could just put the script supervisor in that position. So I thanked him after the take. I said, thanks for staying and doing the off-camera lines. And he's like, is there any other way to do it? It's just, of course I will. Of course I do. And that was the kind of generosity, like professional generosity that they all three of them had. And they seem to get along very well. And they the other side of that too is, sometimes you get onto a set and the main cast can really bond and kind of create a clique for themselves. And they had that to a point, but they were also really open to, they would make a point of meeting the new people, make a point of shaking a hand, make a point of including you in a joke, make a point of including you in a conversation. And, we all had nice hugs at the end.
Oh, wow. You lived out JayBee's like inner spirit animal by playing Daphne's tattooed man, and you lived out my dream of like working with Jensen, Jared, and Misha.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you can have a vicarious experience through me for the moment, and then perhaps sometime in the future you'll get your own chance to do the same.
That's amazing. And is there a memory while you're filming ScoobyNatural that really stands out for you and you think of it and it just makes you smile?
Yeah, it's the Mystery Machine.
Oh wow, the Mystery Machine is the best.
Do you know why?
No.
There is a little 1.5 inch by 1 inch Mystery Machine trinket or keychain or something that everyone was having a blast just putting into the background of every shot.
It was in the counter at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw it like in one of the last
shots.
shots.
I suggested to put it in the counter. I was like,
yes. Gosh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was.
Holy.
I remember it being mine, or maybe I just helped to move it into the web place or something. But, yeah, I remember being involved in putting it in the counter for some reason.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh, we literally rewatched that 3 days ago, I want to say, and Jay was like, look, it's there.
I adore that. I don't know if it's in absolutely every shot, but I know, like, I adore that kind of Easter egg nonsense, which is really just happening because the crew wants to entertain themselves, right? Like someone has this thing and they put it in the background and they're like, nobody will notice. Let's move it to a different background.
We noticed.
And then eventually it becomes this sort of thing, and then it evolves to this thing with it turns into let's see who notices, from no one will notice to let's see who notices to this is going to be an exciting Easter egg for somebody, So that was good fun.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible. I need to rewatch it and now just like look out for each Mystery Machine in each scene.
Like a hidden Mickey.
Yeah, I also just love that hidden Mickey. I also just love that I get to be a shady real estate developer, because what's more Scooby than that?
Were you excited because you were given the classic line of, and I would have gotten away with this if it weren't for you meddling kids? That line is so classic and iconic to Scooby-Doo. Were you excited to say that?
Thrilled. From the moment I saw the script, thrilled.
And it's such a moment as well, because that's when they go, oh my gosh, they said the line. So it's just, it's such a great way to kind of finalized that special as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of brought the Supernatural world into that kind of animated style. Now they've brought the kind of Scooby conventions back out into the live action. So
I'd say that's
amazing.
the most important line of any Scooby anything, because I can't remember the name of the Scooby movie I'm thinking of, but I'm pretty sure there's a Scooby movie where they unmask the villain and the line isn't said. And I think it's Fred's almost like, wait a second, it's not over yet, because they didn't say it. And then it turns out that there's another twist at the end and that it was somebody else behind it. But it's literally like the movie or the episode is never complete until you get that set of words. And so, yeah, I think ultimately it's the most important part of any episode or movie for Scooby, really.
I think so, yeah. I think so. There's a lot of pressure on me at that moment, right? Because we'd been shooting and then we finally get there and everybody's tired and everybody wants to go home and we're outside and it's cold and you know, and then you sort of think, oh gosh, like the pressure's really on, because it's not just my line, it's this line, you know.
Did it take many takes, do you think? Like, do you remember if that was one that you had to particularly do a lot of takes of?
No, I think I only did maybe 3.
Wow.
I don't think it was a lot. I mean, that's pretty standard, right? And you know, you do one and the camera's not moving right. You do another and you bungle the performance, and you do another and everybody gets it right. And you do another one because you got to make sure you have it right. And you know, so who knows? They're somewhere between 3 and 5, which is pretty normal.
That's amazing, because I'm just like imagining JayBee, because JayBee's a very expressive person. I could almost imagine him stood there in front of a mirror for an hour, just saying it in different tones of voice and things. Just, okay, does it sound better like this? Does it sound better like that?
I think I did that. I wouldn't be surprised if I did that, because I mean, I know I rehearsed it. Sometimes doing it in front of a mirror is really a good idea, because you get to you know, it looks different than you think it looks, you know.
Of course.
Like when you hear your voices for the first time, like I'm sure all of you have had this experience doing a podcast, right? Where you put the headphones on and you record some stuff and then you listen back and you're like, do I really sound like that? Blah, right?
Honestly,
all the time.
Like today, even just today, like on our lunch break, we watched like an episode together or something. So we put the headphones in, and for some reason our podcast was playing because JayBee had been doing some work on it earlier, and he was listening to it for a good 10 seconds before he was like, oh, that was us. Oh, okay. I thought there was an advert playing in the background then. I was like, oh, no.
Well, it's so different. At first, like, just editing was like scraping nails, and now it's just, oh, it's this guy again. Okay, let's edit out that stupid thing that he said, and we'll leave that in because that's kind of funny.
The same thing sort of happens when you're working with the visual medium on television. Is you sort of think, oh, I'm sure I must look this way when I say this, and so doing it in the mirror is helpful because you get to go, oh, I'm doing much more with my face than I thought I was. I could do less, or I can be doing something weird with my left side when I should be doing nothing with it, or what have you. I think sometimes that happens.
But I guess moving towards the future of things now, I have to ask this. If you were asked to work on another Scooby-Doo project, would that be something that you'd be interested in?
Of course.
And you've kind of hinted at one of these before, and obviously, like, there's some things that, you know, obviously you can't say too much about, but do you have any projects coming up that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple things I've done this year that I'm sort of thrilled about. I was in an episode of Disney's Turner and Hooch, which was an experience and a half to work with those dogs, and I got a nice little turn in the first episode of the new Day of the Dead series, which was fun. But I'm excited about what I have to do next week coming up, and I can't talk about that. And I'm excited about just a tiny little turn I did in a film just because of who I got to work with. back in, I think we shot in February or something, but I don't know where that film is at. So I'm again not allowed to talk about it yet. There's so many things we do like this where, I mean, working on My Little Pony was the worst for it because we had such an avid fan base that wanted to know things, and you know the answers to stuff easily a year in advance because that's how far ahead you're recording, and then they take all that time to animate it. And hanging on to those kinds of secrets for years is kind of tough, especially as you go to different conventions and people ask you questions about what's coming. You think, ah. What else though? I'm also excited about a couple of my own projects that are happening. I wrote a podcast before the pandemic, which is basically a radio play type of thing, which is really dumb. It's called Voyage of the Rifferfall, and it's about 16th century Dutch explorers who are tasked with going to find the edge of the earth. So they do, and it's very stupid. And that was my only real rule writing it, was each episode had to be significantly stupider than the last one. So the first one starts off, kind of dumb, but kind of okay. And by the third one, it's like, this is absurd. And it just gets more absurd. And then we kind of ended up on a hiatus because of the pandemic, but I am pleased to say that season 2 is going to go into record, I think, in next month.
Oh, that's amazing. There's so many things happening and to be excited for.
Yeah. I'm sure there's other things too, but I can't think of them at the moment. I'll probably think of them in a minute, like, oh, I was supposed to say that.
I guess not to put any pressure on to think about them, but the last question we have for you is there anything else that you want to discuss or talk about today?
Well, I think it was the Voyage of the Rifferfall, and I also started drawing. I'd never really drawn before, and I started drawing a webcomic called They Don't Call You Either. And I started a Twitter page for that. Mind you, I haven't really contributed to it in months now, so I've got a whole bunch of comics sitting there that I haven't inked. And I'm not a very good artist, but what the heck? So there's that. There's no, I don't have anything else on the go in terms of movies and stuff. I've got some scripts I've written, but nobody seems to want to produce them at the moment. So that's always a trial. And the occasional cartoon. I just did a cartoon a couple of months ago that I don't know how long it'll be before I could talk about it. That's the problem, is everything that I've done recently I can't talk about, and then I don't know everything I did a year ago I feel like is already out there in the world.
Yeah, so there's so
if you told us some if you told us some of the things, you may have to kill us. Is that the same?
Exactly. Yeah, and then all of your listeners. And that's no good. No. I understand that's still illegal.
I mean, for now, who knows what's going to happen? We'll see if it ages.
Well, I know. My middle name is Omicron, after all.
Oh no, the dastardly variant. I guess one thing that I'd really like to ask you, if that's okay, and it's just something I've thought of, so please let me know if that's not okay, but I know you said that you've been to quite a few conventions and things, and I wanted to ask if there's an item or some type of bit of memorabilia that you've ever been asked to sign or that you have signed that stands out to you as being particularly memorable or just cool.
Memorable and cool are not necessarily the same thing. The character I play on My Little Pony is a character called Big Macintosh, right? Named after the Macintosh apple, but is often shortened to Big Mac, which is the name of the famous hamburger. So at one point, I was asked to sign the bun of a freshly minted hamburger of that name, and then it was submitted for sale at an auction, a charity auction at this particular convention. I think it ended up selling for something like $450.
Ooh!
Oh my gosh!
That's an expensive Big Mac.
Which I think is probably the record holder for the most expensive Big Mac, but of course there was no one from Guinness there to witness it. So
I was gonna guess that you were gonna say that they asked you to sign the box of a Big Mac. Because
I've done that too, but I've signed the bun.
the bun's not
I've
gonna
signed the
last too
actual.
long.
I've signed the act. Well, you'd be surprised. There's McDonald's in America. Don't forget. There's a lot of preservatives in that thing. But yeah, who knows? I don't know. I remember we signed a bag of Doritos once. 3 of us signed the bag of Doritos, and we auctioned that one off. Strange things like that. I've also signed stuff like there's a guy who has a go-kart, and he's collecting signatures on his go-kart, which is sort of done up to be like Rainbow Dash. I'm pretty sure I've signed somebody's car that has it all done up to be in my character's colors. Oh, and I was going to say this too. I'm not entirely certain if it's exact. It might be a sort of a paraphrase of the famous Scooby-Doo line, but I'm pretty sure I had a character in Littlest Pet Shop from 2012 that actually said that line as well. So there's a whole other avenue to explore there with that show.
Oh gosh, it's like all these types of things are aligning. I'm like, wow. It's like we're like just we're all actors and we're following some type of weird script that the world has for us, and I don't know, it's interesting how things work out.
Oh yeah, the kinds of parallels and cycles that happen are strange, right? Like for a long time I was doing, I started out doing mostly on camera work with the voice work occasionally, and then I started doing mostly voice work, and on camera work was really rare, and almost never commercials. And then I started doing commercials again, and then I started doing television shows and movies again. And it's like I'm waiting for the moment when everything is all happening all at once, but that is yet to happen. Everything seems to take its turn. And I was going to say this too, that I just realized that I think the people that cast Monsters Unleashed were the same people that did the casting on Scooby. Yeah, absolutely. Same people that cast ScoobyNatural. So maybe there was some creative casting at work at play.
Perhaps those like the kind of the memorable lines is just incredible.
Yeah.
But I guess that's all the questions that we have written down today. I suppose as there's nothing else, I guess I just want to thank you personally for coming on here today. It's honestly been an absolute honor hearing you speak about all the things that we all love so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's been an absolute delight to come and have the space to talk about them.
Thank you. Like, honestly, this is just really incredible, and I do hope that we can see you more in some other projects going forward, and no doubt that we're gonna go through like the IMDb back catalogue and just kind of find some snippets of the cameos. I definitely want to find that that sequence of you in the earlier Supernatural episodes. Like, I think that would just be kind of fun to go, hey, there it is, that's what we spoke about.
I would love to. I've never seen it, so I mean, who knows? I really like. I swear, if you blink, you'll miss it.
We'll have to get Rhianna to help us.
With the timestamp.
Timestamp this. There we go. There it is. Oh, and all the mystery machines, of course. That's definitely going to be a little mini game side quest that we're going to do.
Yeah. I guess I should also pitch my own Twitter account. You should follow me at Actor Peter New on Twitter, and I have at Peter New on Instagram. Because that's where I'm mostly active.
Definitely. I'll make sure to leave a link to all of them in the description.
Oh, please. I also do the occasional, but very much occasional, TikTok.
Oh, I did not know about that. That's going to be fun. I mean, TikTok's something that I hated at first, and now I'm addicted to them. It's crazy.
Same. I watch, for every one I make, I watch about 399. So.
Oh, that's amazing. I think it's fair to say the same for JayBee. I get about 20 TikToks a day sent from you of different
minimum 20
montages and clips and things. It really is an interesting and I guess fun platform too.
Yeah, for sure. I find that like if I'm if I'm active on something that, oh, that's what I should talk about. Hey, after we've all said thank you and good night. Last year, during the pandemic, I ended up shooting an entire feature film that I star in called Time Helmet. And I hope it's going to be funny. So I play an angry scientist.
Ooh.
Yeah, who travels back in time to commit patent fraud.
Oh, that's actually really interesting.
It is.
I love the time travel stuff. But yeah, I guess to everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. We do have a giveaway that we've organized to kind of celebrate this interview here. So we're gonna do a section in a few moments explaining the kind of giveaway rules, but obviously we'll do that separately. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for listening, and again, thank you to Peter New for coming on here today, and to Rhianna for being our third host today. So that's been absolutely incredible, and we hope to see you all tune in again.
Thank you.
Okay, so as JayBee previously mentioned, we're now going to talk quickly about the giveaway section of this episode. So what we're going to be doing is, as part of a celebration of this episode and as a bit of a Christmas thing for the community as well, we're going to be giving away 3 Space Kooks, 2 of the common variant and 1 of the chase. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to announce the winner in next week's Smash or Pass episode.
So it's not going to be the episode that comes out tomorrow. That'll be focusing on Scooby-Doo Kiss Rock and Roll. It'll be, literally next Saturday. I don't know the date, but it's going to be the first week of December. But that's going to be the episode where we will discuss Lego Scooby-Doo Haunted Hollywood. We're going to be drawing the names directly after our verdicts at the end of that episode. So we do hope that you will tune into that. So Millie, I guess you can kick us off with the, how to win type of deal.
So if you're looking to try and win one of these either common or chase Space Kooks from the Soda collection of Funko, then this is what you do. So all you need to do is comment below. We're going to go on the theme of the episode that we've done with this interview here. So comment below if you're going into ScoobyNatural, which one of the gang you would be most excited to hang out with once you'd entered that kind of cartoon universe. So let us know who you'd be most excited to hang out with. I personally would probably not even say character. I think for me it'd be the Mystery Machine, when they do the race where they're going to the kind of house. Yeah, so I just want to be in the Mystery Machine for that race.
I guess anything in the animated sequence is fair game, or just anything that you want, because that can include Scrappy. Me personally, obviously I'd want to hang out with Daphne. That would be like top of my bucket list. So let us know who you would meet down in the comment section below. That's going to be amazing, and good luck to everyone who is going to join that, because we're so excited to be doing a chase giveaway.
Indeed. So the way that this is going to work is, like we said, comment below, and then comment below who you'd be most excited to hang out with if you entered the Supernatural kind of Scooby universe. And then the way we decide the winners, we're going to draw 3 winners. The first 2 is for a common Space Kook, and then the last name we draw will be for the chase.
And I'm hoping that, I don't know, if fate gives us or finds a way for us to get another chase, I want to say we want to do this again, but we're just happy to do the chase now. And of course, thank you so much for tuning in this far. We're so happy to have done this episode and this interview, and we've thought that this would be the best way to celebrate it with everyone.
Indeed. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to Peter New for being part of this. All their links will be in the description. For Rhianna for being another incredible guest and the questions that they contributed as well. And to JayBee for setting the interview up. So thank you to you all for that. I personally have really enjoyed this one. We hope you have too. And as we said, we'll see you all tomorrow for the next episode of Smash or Pass. So please like, comment and subscribe.
JayBee and Millie, and of course links to Peter New in the description down below.